your attitude, your resilience, your patience. These things don't show up on the outside at first, but they shape everything you will eventually become. When you read 1 page a day, your knowledge doesn't double overnight, but your thinking begins to shift. One thing sooner or later, visible growth becomes unstoppable. Small daily actions compound into exponential growth, but most people underestimate just how powerful that principle truly is. We live in a world that loves big gestures, dramatic breakthroughs, and overnight success stories. Yet the real story of success is far quieter. It happens in the smallest decisions you make day after day, decisions so small that they almost feel insignificant. But that's the secret. The insignificance is only temporary. What feels small today becomes unstoppable tomorrow. Imagine planting a single seed in the ground. You water it each day, give it sunlight, and protect it. In the first few days, nothing changes. In the first few weeks, still nothing. You could walk by the soil and think your efforts are wasted. But underground, where no one can see, a transformation is happening. The roots are forming, strengthening, preparing the plant for a growth spurt. A seed only grows upward when the foundation is strong enough to support it. That's how your life works too. Every daily discipline, every tiny act of self-improvement, every choice to move forward is quietly building your root system. You may not see the results yet, but you will feel them later. Most people quit their habits not because they don't work, but because they don't work fast enough. They read for a few days, exercise for a week, save money for a month, and when the results don't immediately mirror their expectations, they stop. They assume the effort isn't worth it. But the truth is that every page you read sharpens your mind. Every workout strengthens your discipline. Every dollar saved shapes your habits. These gains don't shout. They whisper. And if you keep listening long enough, the whispers grow into a roar. The magic lies in the compounding effect. One small action multiplies itself over time. Imagine reading just 10 pages a day. It feels like nothing. But a year later, you've completed over 15 books. Imagine saving a small amount daily. After a year, you have a cushion. After 5 years, you have security. After 10, you have freedom. The effort stays the same, small, manageable, consistent. But the results grow larger and larger because compounding rewards consistency, not intensity. The hardest part is staying patient in the early stages. The beginning feels slow because the curve is flat. You're doing the work but not seeing the reward. That's where most people lose. They stop in the invisible zone, the area just before the exponential rise begins. But if you can endure that quiet period, something remarkable happens. One day, the line begins to tilt upward. Progress accelerates. Opportunities appear. Your confidence strengthens. People around you begin to notice. What took you months to achieve now takes weeks. What took weeks now takes days. The curve starts slow, but once it bends upward, it increases rapidly. Exponential growth is not only about skill, it's about identity. Every small action is a vote for the person you want to become. When you read daily, you're not just gaining knowledge, you're becoming a reader. When you exercise consistently, you're not just getting healthier, you're becoming disciplined. When you save money daily, you're not just increasing your bank balance, you're becoming responsible. Identity compounds just as powerfully as results. And here's the most empowering truth. Anyone can do this. You don't need massive talent, unusual intelligence, or extraordinary opportunity. You just need commitment to small, steady action. Success is not built in leaps, it's built in inches. And those inches repeated daily turn into miles, so make the small choices. Read the page, take the walk, practice the skill, save the money, speak kindly, show gratitude. These simple acts may look unimpressive in the moment, but they are quietly constructing a future that will astonish you. The growth curve will reward you, not because you move fast, but because you kept moving. The plateau is often the most misunderstood part of anyone's journey, yet it is the most natural and necessary phase of the growth curve. When you hit a plateau, it's easy to assume something is wrong. You may feel like your effort has stopped working, your progress has slowed down, or that you've somehow lost the spark that pushed you forward in the beginning. But the truth is, the plateau is not a punishment. It is preparation. It's the quiet stretch of the path where your character is tested, your discipline is refined, and your future breakthrough is being shaped behind the scenes. Think about climbing a mountain. There are steep parts where your progress is obvious. Every step feels like an achievement, but there are also flat stretches. You're still moving forward, but it doesn't feel like you're climbing anymore. You might think you're stuck, but you're actually building stamina for the next ascent. The plateau functions the same way in personal growth. It's the stretch where you build the strength to handle greater responsibility, greater opportunities, and greater challenges when the next phase of growth arrives. Most people quit during the plateau because they misunderstand its purpose. They assume that if results are not visible, effort is pointless. But the plateau is where your habits are tested. Anyone can be disciplined when motivation is high and progress is visible. But when things get quiet, slow, or repetitive, that's where true discipline is born. That's when you discover whether your habits are real habits or temporary excitement. The plateau doesn't weaken you, it reveals you. It asks you one question: will you stay consistent even when life stops applauding? The plateau is also where internal growth happens before external growth shows. You may not see progress in your results, but you are progressing in your mindset, your patience, your emotional strength, and your resilience. These qualities don't grow during times of speed, they grow during times of stillness. The invisible progress you make during the plateau becomes the foundation for the next level of your life. Without this phase, success would collapse under its own weight because you wouldn't be prepared to sustain it. Another reason the plateau is necessary is that it forces you to refine your approach. Sometimes it's not that you're doing the wrong thing. You just need to do it better, more consistently, or more strategically. The plateau gives you space to adjust, rethink, and recalibrate. It's a pause that allows you to ask better questions. What am I learning? What needs improvement? What habits are slipping? What distractions need to go? This is the time when your self-awareness sharpens, and awareness is one of the greatest drivers of long-term success. If you stay committed during the plateau, something powerful happens. Your mindset shifts from, I need quick results, to, I'm here for the long game. When this shift takes place, the plateau stops feeling like a prison and starts becoming a teacher. You begin to appreciate consistency, understand the value of patience, and gain respect for the process. And once the plateau has done its job, the growth curve rises again, often suddenly and dramatically. You'll look back and realize that the time you thought was wasted was the time that prepared you for everything. The plateau doesn't delay your success, it develops you for it. It slows your pace so you can strengthen your foundation. And most importantly, it tests your commitment, because only those who endure the plateau earn the breakthrough. So when growth feels slow, when things feel stuck, when results feel distant, remind yourself this is not the end. This is the phase that shapes champions. Stay consistent, stay patient, and keep moving. The next rise on your growth curve is already on its way. Persistence is the quiet force behind every meaningful achievement. It's the discipline to keep going when progress feels invisible, when motivation fades, and when the results you hoped for seem far away. Most people start strong, full of excitement, energy, and ambition. But the ones who finish strong are those who understand that advancement demands a price, and that price is persistence. It doesn't matter how talented you are, how well you planned, or how good your intentions are. Without persistence, even the brightest potential stays buried. Persistence is not loud. It doesn't always feel inspiring. In fact, most of the time, it feels ordinary. Showing up, doing the work, repeating the routine, building the habit. But those ordinary days are what separate those who wish from those who achieve. You see, when you keep moving forward, even when the journey feels slow or repetitive, you send a powerful message to life itself. I am serious. I am committed. I will not quit. And life responds to that kind of determination. The growth curve, like I mentioned earlier, has slow seasons, confusing plateaus, and moments where everything seems still. That's where persistence earns its value. When progress isn't obvious, persistence becomes your compass. When motivation disappears, persistence becomes your fuel. When doubt whispers that you should quit, persistence becomes your shield. It is the force that pushes you through the uncomfortable middle, the part where most people turn back. Every major success story carries a hidden chapter of persistence. Behind every skill someone mastered, behind every fortune someone built, behind every transformation someone experienced, there was a period where quitting would have been easier than continuing. Yet they stayed. They pushed through the fog. They did the work anyway. That's why they advanced while others stayed the same. Because persistence doesn't guarantee instant results, but it guarantees eventual progress. Think about it, the world rewards consistency, not occasional effort. A person who reads 10 pages every day will outgrow the person who reads one whole book only once in a while. A person who saves a small amount regularly will build more wealth than someone waiting for the perfect moment to invest. A person who practices a skill daily will outperform someone who practices intensely but rarely. Advancement belongs to those who choose repetition over excuse, action over hesitation, and endurance over discouragement. Persistence also builds something more important than success. It builds character. Every day you push forward, you become stronger, more reliable, more disciplined. You begin to trust yourself because you've proven that you can follow through. And that confidence becomes the foundation for bigger dreams and bolder moves. Persistence doesn't just shape your future, it shapes you. What people often misunderstand is that persistence isn't about speed, it's about direction. You don't need to sprint. You only need to keep stepping. Even a small step forward maintains momentum, and momentum is one of the greatest advantages you can create. Once you build it, advancement becomes smoother, decisions become easier, and opportunities start finding you. But remember, this persistence is intentional. You must choose it daily. You must remind yourself why you started. You must reconnect with your purpose, because persistence is fueled by clarity. Clarity of vision, clarity of values, clarity of what you're ultimately fighting for. And here's the truth you can take to the bank: persistence always pays. Not always instantly, not always in the way you expect, but always in the long run. Those who refuse to quit become the ones the world cannot ignore. While others fall away, you rise simply because you stayed. So if you want advancement, real, lasting advancement, be willing to pay the price. Be willing to persist when others don't. Be willing to stay when it gets difficult. Because persistence is the great equalizer. It turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. And it turns your potential into your reality. Breakthroughs in life rarely come from grand gestures or dramatic moments. They grow out of the quiet, repetitive, often unnoticed efforts you make when no one is clapping, no one is watching, and no one is applauding your discipline. The world sees the moment you shine, but it almost never sees the nights you stayed committed, the mornings you woke up early, the sacrifices you made, and the choices you repeated long after the excitement faded. That is where breakthroughs are born, in the small, consistent acts that seem insignificant at the moment, but carry enormous power over time. Every great transformation begins with a private commitment. It starts in the space where you tell yourself, I will do this, even if no one else knows about it. It's that inner agreement that shapes your habits, your identity, and eventually your destiny. When you choose to read instead of scrolling, when you choose to save instead of spending, when you choose to practice instead of procrastinate, you are placing deposits into your future success. These deposits don't show immediate returns, and that is why many people quit. They expect quick results from quiet work, forgetting that growth is not instantaneous. It is earned gradually, silently, and patiently. Imagine a person going to the gym for the first time. Nothing changes on the first day. No muscles appear, no weight drops, no transformation occurs. But if that person returns the next day, and the next, and the next, something powerful begins to happen. Not in the mirror, but in the mind. Discipline forms. Identity shifts. The body follows later, but the breakthrough begins long before the world sees it. That's why the quiet work is so important. It shapes who you become long before it shapes what you achieve. The quiet phase is also where most people give up. It's the phase where effort feels high and reward feels low. It's where doubt whispers, why keep going? No one will notice if you stop. But breakthroughs only happen for those who refuse to let the lack of applause determine their level of effort. They stay committed because they understand a simple truth: the universe rewards consistency more than intensity. It's better to be steady every day than spectacular once a month. When the breakthrough finally comes, when your business takes off, when your skills show improvement, when opportunities begin to open, when people are suddenly impressed by your abilities, remember that the breakthrough is simply the visible result of invisible effort. The world may call it luck, talent, or overnight success. But you will know the truth. It was the work you did when no one was cheering that made the difference. It was the choices you made when they didn't feel significant. It was the practice you put in when progress felt slow. It was the belief you carried when results were nowhere in sight. Breakthroughs don't reward the loud, the fast, or the impatient. They reward the consistent, the disciplined, and the quietly determined. Every page you read, every habit you build, every repetition you complete, every hour you stay focused. All of it gathers silently until one day it erupts into visible success. That moment feels sudden, but it is not sudden at all. It is the harvest of seeds planted long ago. So keep going when no one notices. Keep practicing when no one appreciates it. Keep working when no one applauds. Because someday your breakthrough will arrive. And when it does, it will reveal the true value of the quiet work you once believed no one would ever see. Growth brings responsibility and the opportunity to lead. When a person begins to rise, something remarkable happens. The world around them starts to look different. Not because the world changed, but because they did. Growth sharpens your awareness, expands your capacity, elevates your standards, and with that elevation comes a new weight, a meaningful one, the responsibility to use what you've gained in service of something greater than yourself. When you grow, you no longer think like the person who started at the bottom of the curve. You've fought through uncertainty, discipline, small habits, and silent seasons. You've stayed consistent when results weren't visible. You've climbed past the plateau that discourages most people. That journey gives you something valuable: experience. And experience is not meant to be hoarded. It's meant to be shared. Responsibility begins when you realize your progress affects more than just your own life. People notice your changes, your attitude, your work ethic, your results. They see you becoming someone different, someone stronger, someone more intentional. And without even realizing it, you become an example. Whether you want the role or not, others begin to look to you to understand how growth is done, how discipline is maintained, how obstacles are overcome. That's why growth and leadership are deeply connected. Becoming better automatically improves your ability to influence. But leadership doesn't begin with a title, a position, or a stage. It begins with character. True leadership grows from the kind of person you become on the journey. It comes from showing up on the days you didn't feel like it, from honoring your commitments, from choosing discipline over excuses, from holding yourself to a higher standard than you expect from others. Leadership is simply the result of living your values loud enough that others can see them. And here's the powerful part. You don't have to be perfect to lead. You just have to be progressing. People don't follow perfection. They follow growth. They are inspired by someone who is still striving, still learning, still improving. Someone who knows the struggle but keeps pushing anyway. That kind of authenticity gives others permission to grow too. It tells them, if I can do it, you can do it. That is leadership at its purest. With growth also comes the responsibility to help others rise. When you have climbed a little higher, you gain access to a better view. And that better view gives you insight. You can see dangers others haven't reached yet. You can see opportunities others don't know exist. You can see shortcuts, lessons, and principles that could save someone years of struggle. Your responsibility is not to carry people, but to guide them, to share what you've learned, to encourage them when they feel stuck, and to remind them that the plateau is part of the curve, not the end of it. The world needs people who have grown to step into leadership. Not loud leadership, not forceful leadership, but leadership rooted in wisdom, humility, and service. When growth turns into responsibility, and responsibility turns into guidance, your life becomes more meaningful than you ever imagined. You don't just succeed, you contribute. You don't just rise, you lift. And so the growth curve doesn't end when you reach your breakthrough. It evolves. It creates a ripple. Your responsibility is to ensure that ripple becomes a wave of better habits, better thinking, better decisions, and better lives. That is the true reward of growth, not just becoming more, but helping others become more too.